Welcome to another episode of Pleasant Enlightenment. You guys know that I got to do this every time because for me, this is one of my favorite spaces in the beginning of the podcast is to welcome our guests because I know, man, that they're coming with a couple of things that I personally deem very expensive time. That commodity is 24 hours given to the poor, the rich, given to every single man. So we cannot argue and say one has more time than us. What we do with it, that's all up to you and I. The other is your journey. The journey housed who you were, made the person who they are today. And I want to thank Daniel for coming and sharing both of those because they're very, very expensive. And we are going to learn from him so that we can become better human spirits while we engage in this conversation while we're here on this earth. Daniel Plant, oh my God, I just want to thank you for coming because we got some conversation to talk about because I was reading your story and I can't wait. Welcome.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your voice and your platform here. Yeah, everybody's got a story to tell, and a lot of inspiration to share.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Again, I've been reading and doing some research on you, and I'm very excited to have this conversation. Introduce the folks to yourself. Tell them what you have created because of your journey. After through all of the stuff we're going to investigate in a little while. What? How do you serve mankind, Daniel? I tell them that's the prize, man.
Yeah, my name's Daniel Spencer, and I help people transform their mindset, right? Create a stronger mindset through my Instagram. My Instagram's Reps and Double Time. I actually started it just to kind of highlight my work, right? I'm a power lineman by trade, and I got into fitness about 5 years ago. And I started my Instagram page just to show, some workouts and some lifts and highlight work. And it wasn't until after I had a near-death work accident where I really started sharing a whole lot more of my past traumas, um, and my healing process. What I what I what I did to create my discipline, body transformation, and now I help coach people online do the same thing. Whatever they're dealing with, if it's negative vices, if it's low self-thought, we use fitness and nutrition as a way to instill discipline in ourselves to create a stronger mindset and to transform our bodies and to give us confidence and more self-worth.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you said it, low self-thought, because that's all it is. So, Daniel, talk to us, man. I always like to take people back. Introduce us to your family. What was that unit like? Because I tell folks that this location right here is the first that we visit, and we stay here as an individual for several years, and then we move forward in life. But at this space right here, sometimes some wonderful things happen to us that create trauma. We interpret it. Sometimes it's very simple, it doesn't matter. But as a child, we interpret it a certain way, and it was some type of rejection. And then we began to form beliefs based on that assumption. So, talk to us as to what your family unit looked like.
Growing up, blue collar family. My dad worked as a shop mechanic manager in the Bay Area up north in California. My mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and everything was just normal. And yeah, I got one older brother. He's 2 years older than me, and we were best friends. And once I was about 10 years old, just out of nowhere, my parents said, "Hey, we're gonna get a divorce." And right there, my whole world got flipped upside down. And soon after that, my dad moved out, and my mom ended up having to work two jobs. So home life was just kind of broken, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah.
coming home, nobody would be there, uh, having to cook dinner, me and my brother, and it was kind of a lot of isolation, sort of internally. My brother would
Hmm.
seek out his friends a lot and hang out with his friends, and I kind of always felt like kind of an introvert loner. So I just kind of
Hmm.
stood there for a while. Um, And my dad had got a new job opportunity, and it was down here in Southern California. So my brother and I moved down here with him, and so now we're starting to get raised by dad.
Yeah.
And it was different, you know. It was fun. It was kind of like a bachelor pad almost, you know. But during that time of when my parents first split up, you know, I had a lot of bad thoughts about a lot of questions really about why, you know,
Yeah.
it just came out of nowhere. Um,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
kind of was rebellious right after that in school. I was in seventh grade. I started acting out, maybe trying to use that pain that I was holding inside to get attention from outside sources, you know. So I
Yeah.
wasn't getting good grades, and then when we moved down here with my dad, I had no audience. I had no audience. I
Yeah.
was all in a brand new school, brand new city, and I
Hmm.
just kept to myself again. I was getting better grades, you know, so it was kind of like a good thing for me academically, but inside I was still holding a whole lot of pain. And
Yeah.
I found friends eventually that were into bad vices, you know, mostly just
Yeah.
smoking a lot of weed. And I used that. I used that for many, many
Yeah.
years as kind of like an outlet or
Vice. Yeah.
a vice, yeah, just to kind of soothe
Yeah.
my pains.
Everyone has. Yeah. Everyone got to find one, man, to handle the pain, if you will. I remember my when my family, when my ex-wife and I got our divorce. I remember I sat down with my boys and kind of walked them through what was about to happen. And I was trying to make, I knew that the information that the path that we were heading would be a path that is going to destroy basically their foundation. And so I was trying my best to create a softer landing, if you will.
Mm,
And so I would walk with them through and to let them understand that this is not you. This is two people that got married young, and we are uh, going into different directions and so stuff like that. So I know because I saw it firsthand, Daniel, what it did to my kids. They were A students, and they all grades dropped, and all of those things that one has to deal with in a traumatic situation. And many of them internalized, just like I did. I got hurt there too. So we all got traumatized there as well. So here you are looking for that space by which you can fit in, if you will. And a couple of the boys are smoking some weed and having a good time, if you will.
yeah,
Give
yeah,
you that space moving through life. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and it continued, right? It continued to the
Yeah.
point where right after high school, um, drinking also, right? Drinking through high school, Friday night
Hmm.
parties and stuff like that. But the weed was always what I liked the most. And after high school, all my friends were smoking, and I was spending money on it. And I figured, well, I might as well just sell it. You know, so I started
Yeah.
selling it. Ended up getting in trouble, getting caught by the cops, and I ended up in a relationship, and that I thought was love, but it was just a comfort, right? It was just another person there to try and comfort my selfishness, I guess, to try and fill
Hmm.
that void in myself. And I ended up meeting who is now my wife. I've been married. It's going to be 19 years, and that's where I
Okay.
really kind of felt like I belonged with somebody. You know, um,
Hmm. Yeah.
I really my heart was filled with I don't want to be anywhere but next to this person,
Yeah.
and my wife Lisa. And then there was job opportunities came up. I started working with the city of Los Angeles, and part of the requirements were a commercial license and random drug tests.
Hmm.
So right away, I had to stop smoking weed, but always having to feel like I needed that vice, I just started drinking more. Um,
Yeah.
and right after we got hired, I got hired with the city, and we had our first child. We got married. Um, and the drinking was causing a huge problem. You know, it
yeah,
was huge. It would shut me out. I would shut my wife out actually. Emotionally, we were trying to have conversations about our problems,
mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't remember them. You know, I wasn't, I
Wow.
would try and be silly or funny and try and lighten the mood, not really
Yeah,
realizing that I was putting myself on the same path of maybe just isolating my spouse, you know,
yeah, yeah.
and it was not healthy. You know, it almost ended up in divorce, and we ended up seeking marriage counseling a couple times.
In the
And
counseling, Daniel, did you did the counseling brought things to your attention? We know that they, of course, they'll deal with the drugs, the drinking. I mean, but what were the internal um, probing that they were doing with you, and did you notice some of yourself being, I guess, for lack of a better word, not agitated but uncomfortable when they were probing about those questions?
I think maybe I was trying to like direct the blame away from myself. You know,
Yeah,
I didn't want to take responsibility for it, for what I knew what I was causing. Um,
yeah,
and it didn't really agitate me, really. I think it just kind of made me reflect. Yeah, like I didn't want to admit what I was doing wrong, you know,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
it wasn't until after I had my rock bottom with alcohol that I really had that realization, like, yeah, man, this is all on you. And you're creating this
yeah.
huge problem in your family and with your wife. Um, and
How old were you, Daniel, when you got there? As you stated, rock bottom. How old were you? How large was your family at that time? What was that your surroundings, if you will, when you got there to rock bottom?
that was 2011. I was
Hmm.
uh, I was 29, 28,
Wow.
29 years old, and I was drinking daily. Um, I would leave from work, go straight to the liquor store, buy alcohol, drink it on the way home, come home drunk, and continue drinking. And at that time, I had my second child. He was
Hmm.
he had just turned 2 years old. My daughter was 6, and I was
Yeah.
almost at the end of my apprenticeship. I'm a journeyman cable splicer. So I
Yeah.
was almost at the end of my apprenticeship, realizing um, if you get pulled over, if you lose your license, your whole life's going to get flipped upside down. Because my wife, again, she was a stay-at-home mom also. You know, she stayed home with the
Yeah.
kids, took them to school, got everything taken care of at the house, and I was at work. And I was at work constantly. And I was maybe trying to avoid the problems I was creating at home by saying, well, I have to work overtime, and
Yeah.
thinking that I needed to provide for my family financially, and not really understanding that I was taken away from them, like you said, the time, right? That time is very
Hmm.
precious. And one thing we can't replace is that time. And I missed a whole lot of it um, with
Yeah.
alcohol, you know, not being
Yeah.
present in the moment.
Yeah. When you got there, Daniel, what happened to you that caused you to get there? And how did you, what were those questions that you started to ask yourself when you realized, wait a minute, I'm here? What, how did you get there, and what that conversation was like?
It was it was after a party. It was after a Super Bowl party, and I had my kids with me. And I was drinking all day, and my wife was at home. And instead of calling her to say, "Hey, can you come pick us up?" I strapped the kids in the car and I drove home. I drove home. It was about a 25-minute, 30-minute car ride. It was on Super Bowl Sunday, actually. Um, and then when I got home, I started having more drinks. I started drinking more, And then I was looking down at my glass, and that's when it hit me. I was like, what if you would have gotten a car crash? What if you would have gotten pulled over? Um, what if your kids would have gotten hurt? Like, what are you doing? This is constantly creating problems with you and Lisa, who would tell me all the time, Daniel, I think you're
Mm-hmm.
drinking too much. I would hide alcohol. I would drink early on my days off from work. I would start drinking like 10 in the morning. I'd find any excuse. Um,
Yeah.
and I, when I told myself, you're going to ruin your family, you're going to ruin your marriage, um, instead of going aside and talking to my wife and say, babe, you've been absolutely right. I need help. I don't know what to do though. And that was the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid
Yeah.
to admit it, and I was scared to ask for help. But I finally had that courage in myself to seek help. And I called my dad, but he didn't answer the phone. I called my brother, who I had just left his house, and he didn't
Mm-hmm.
answer. And then so I called my uncle, and he answered the phone, and he he was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I just started breaking down and expressing everything, like I'm drinking too much. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna ruin my family. And he told me to call the next day to seek help. So I went to substance abuse program. The very next day, I checked myself in the substance abuse program. It was an outpatient program through Kaiser,
Mm-hmm.
whose
Yeah.
was my insurance provider. And I started going to meetings there for it was two nights a week for about an
Yeah.
hour, hour and a half. And it was kind of like another eye opener, um,
Yeah.
where a lot of these people were struggling from a lot of harder substance abuse, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their position in life maybe was a lot lower than mine, because I made good money, and
Yeah.
I have, what I feel is like a beautiful gift here, my children, my wife who's very patient, and I was just like, wow, man, like you really are just um self-actualizing. I had to just tell myself, man, you're just acting like a huge punk. You're acting like a huge punk,
Yeah.
and you're using this alcohol as an escape from trying to face your real problems. Why
Yeah.
are you so angry? Why are you not happy with yourself? And that was 12 years ago. It's 12 years
Wow.
ago, and
Congratulations, man.
thank you, thank you. And at that time, it was an unhealthy relationship with food. Also, I
Mm-hmm.
would wake up hungover, go to work, and thinking that I needed, some greasy spoon breakfast to try and cure the hangover, and
Yeah.
I was almost 300 pounds. I was almost
Wow.
300 pounds, and I was not happy with the way I looked, and that just escalated the problems and made me drink more. And right after I quit drinking, I changed my diet, and I lost about 60 pounds. Just was
Wow.
changing my food and stopping alcohol. It was amazing. I just felt better. I started sleeping better because I would wake up in the middle of the night with bad heartburn. Um, my wife said she would always tell me, you woke up not breathing, gasping for air, and
Wow.
it slowly all went away. Right? It was just part of the healing process of our bodies.
Yeah. So Daniel, when you were there and you went to therapy and you started seeking help, and they're digging, as they say, they're digging within deeper inside of you, um, and you began to notice things. What were those things that you noticed that caused you to begin to drink and to run from your situation? What did you discover, if you will, as you were in that space with those counselors?
I think what I really discovered was that I was just afraid to admit what was really causing me pain, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I would think back recently and try and say that or blame it on growing up, seeing family members always drinking and stuff like that. But really, I mean, and that's just me playing the victim, right? Which
Yeah.
is what a lot of us do. We want to blame
Mm-hmm.
everything else except for ourselves. And because we're really too scared to look deep within ourselves and say, you know, why are you causing this to yourself?
Yeah.
And it was just the fact that maybe I just wasn't happy. I was trying to blame it on the stress of being a young parent and a young husband. Um, but really, it just I didn't know how to deal with my own self-loathing, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So what tools did you bring in, Daniel? Because I know it's a lot of these programs, they have tools that they will give to you to use to help you to become, as they say, one that makes better judgment at that time because you are in a, and we all are, Daniel. Like people always say, we are all recovering. We're all recovering, every single one of us,
yeah.
from something. We're recovering, and so it's easy for us to fall back in, but to learn to become the masters of one thoughts because that's where it starts. So, what were some of those tools, Daniel? Did they tell you, and they were offering to you, and you grabbed onto some of them to begin to move yourself forward from being in that space where you were going to, drinking and so forth?
The biggest one is the power of autosuggestion. Right? And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that was until this past year when I started really reading more because I never used to read books or anything. And once I started my self-development program, one of the requirements from my coach was you're going to start reading a book. And it was the power of autosuggestion. I didn't know what that term was back then, but when I had my first sit down with the counselor, and he says, well, every time you have this thought in your head, which was first thing in the morning for me, right? I'd wake up and be
Yeah.
like, oh, we need to get it on. He said
Mm-hmm.
the the first time you have that thought in your head, you need to just tell yourself, no, it's not an option. It's not an option. It's not, I can have one or two drinks and be good because I had no self-control. I had no self-control about my alcohol, over my food. The only thing I had self-control on was keeping my emotions and my feelings inside. But it was the power of autosuggestion where he said, what's your biggest trigger? And I would try and blame it on my family. Again, well, when I get together with
Mm-hmm.
friends and family, we always have drinks. But I think my biggest
Yeah.
trigger was right here in my own head.
Yeah.
Um, so once he said, every time you have that thought, you have to just tell yourself, it's not an option. It's not an option. It's not an option. Every time somebody asks you if you want to drink, you have to say no. And that was kind of hard for everybody at first. Because I remember the first time I had to say that out loud to somebody else, it was to my father. And we had got together at my
Yeah.
brother's house. And he's like, hey, you want to have a drink? And I go, no, not today. Not right now. Right. That's what I started with. Not right now, maybe later. So
Yeah.
about an hour later, and they've had a few drinks. Hey, how about a drink now? No, no, thanks. And then finally, after like the third time he asked, he goes, well, what's up? And I go, you know what? I said, I'm in a substance recovery program. I said, I've been
Mm-hmm.
sober for about 12 days. And he goes, what do you mean? He didn't know I had a problem. He didn't know that I was
Yeah.
drinking first thing on my days off or going to the liquor store right after work and coming home drunk and having more drinks and waking up on the living room floor at 2 in the morning. He didn't know any of that. And
Oh,
it really surprised him. And then going out with friends, right? Going out with friends to the
mm-hmm.
concert. Now, for me, that was a big thing. We're going to go to a concert with the friends and tailgate right before the show. And I show up, me and my wife show up, and hey, man, you want a drink? Nah, not today, man. I'm good. I don't want to drink and drive no more, maybe. And then finally, I just kind of told everybody, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in recovery. This is what I used to do. This is how much I used to drink. And when I had this realization of what I was really risking, that was huge, right? Finally getting that
Yeah.
off my chest and now sharing it with everybody where, you know, alcoholism is a huge is not so much so more
Yeah.
no more, but I mean it was a huge problem in my family.
Yeah.
And kind of having everybody see like, wow, the strength in Daniel, that's kind of great. That's something to honor. And
Yeah.
a year after I quit drinking, my brother quit drinking, which is awesome. It's like so happy. I'm so happy
Yeah.
for him. So he's been sober 11 years. I've been sober 12 years, and he's actually, I think, this week or next week, he's celebrating his 11th year. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to both of you guys. I
Thank you.
remember when I was going through my crazy stuff, and one day I picked up this book by Napoleon Hill, and I read a line in there. It says, "We become godlike in this fashion, and that we are able to control our thoughts." And I remember reading that and sitting there and, as they say, letting it marinate in my mind, and I began to see the wisdom and the understanding of it. And I remember in my car, Daniel, I said to myself, "That's it. Today is the last day that I will allow that thought to come in, and I will no longer give it permission to grow. I will end that conversation." And that's what this whole thing about. I tell people that the first battlefield, if you will, is the mind. And this is where the battle takes place. And if you lose it there, you're going to lose it. And so, because what happens once you accept that thought, it will germinate. That's the power of the thought. It will give birth. And so, whether it's a negative thought or a positive thought, but it is at that space right there that when you choose which thought you will give permission to come in, that you are beginning to create your life. You're no longer, I tell people, most people live on automatic or design. And 90% of the people, Daniel, live on automatic, meaning we get up, we run to work, the things we do. But when you live life by design, that's when you pick and choose which thought you're going to give permission to meditate on, because the minute you do that, whatever you're meditating will become a reality. So here you are, Daniel. You guys, you've gone through all of this. You started to learn all of these things about yourself. Talk to us as to how did you start to navigate now with others? Your wife is there, your children is there. You began to, the walk is a courageous walk, because you had to stand up to your dad and your brothers and your friends. It's a courageous walk when you begin to stand up. And now you got to talk and hang out with your family. It's also a courageous work. How did you manage that relationship as you begin to learn about you?
It was, at times it was still kind of hard, because everybody knew what I was struggling with, and we'd get together with family, and some of their habits hadn't changed yet. So just knowing that I had to be strong for myself and my family, it really built courage inside of myself, right? It built confidence. And once you have that power of the thought and that confidence, you start to have this feeling like there's nothing else that can stop me.
Nothing you can do. Yeah.
There's nothing else that can bring me down, right? Because ultimately, we are the creators of our own world. Like you said, the power of the thought will manifest into your habits, and your habits will dictate your character. And your character is who you are. It's your way of life. It's the way you think and what you do with it. So
was that wife of yours? How was she when she saw the courage of her husband standing and walking, if you will, with his head high up? He is managing, he's learning to be a courageous person on his every day. How did she respond in your space? What was that conversation like?
I think she felt probably really proud, you know, and
Hmm.
she felt proud, and it made me feel good too, knowing that I was actually able to s- to to show her that I could change, right? This was a change that I was
Yeah.
started with myself, but I mean, really, I was still wasn't open up um, emotionally, like or to my feelings, with my feelings, and that was still a struggle though. But it
Hmm.
was a step, right? And she was
Yeah.
happy with
Yeah.
that. It was another step towards progress.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until after I had my work accident where I really started to open up because after I had my work accident, uh, I went to go see a psychiatrist for therapy,
Hmm.
and they gave me more tools on how to open up and express my feelings with journaling. And once I hit that point, I started really unloading because when I got hurt at work, so I got hurt at work just over 2 years ago, and I initially, essentially, I blew myself up in an underground vault. I had third-degree burns on my
Wow.
face. I had two skin graft surgeries, and I was full of doubt. I was full of doubt. So everything that I had been building up over the last few years, and um, just to go back 3 years before that, me and my wife had started a weight loss journey. Um,
Hmm.
so I had lost about 70 pounds. So now my confidence is really high. You know, my
Yeah.
my my self-esteem is up, but with that builds the ego.
Yeah.
And and my ego is kind of what got me hurt at work because I had that self-thought, right? I had
Yeah.
that call of consciousness come and tell me, hey, this is what's right with the task that you have to do right now. But my ego knocked it out the way and said, no, you're good. You can do this. And essentially, I ended up blowing myself up. Um,
Wow.
so once I sought therapy for that, and they gave me tools on how to open up, how to get over that fear. Once I got rid of that fear, and I say my ego died that night. Um, that fire burned it away with the layers of my skin.
Wow.
I kind of just unloaded everything. You know, I would journal. I was
Yeah.
journaling every day. So getting those feelings out, or whatever doubt or fears or regrets that I had, I would write them down on paper, and that
Hmm.
kind of just had another weight lifted off of my heart. I was able to express with her why was I having so much pain inside? Why would I always be so shut out with her? And at points it was very overwhelming for her, um,
Hmm.
because I went from not sharing anything to
Yeah.
now not having this fear of, I guess, maybe looking weak as a man, or seeing trying to, or being seen as soft for opening up.
Yeah.
um, and at times she appreciated it, right? She appreciated it because she's thinking like, this is my husband really expressing his love and his feelings.
Yeah.
um, but at times it was very overwhelming. She's like, I'm just not used to it, you know. But I had
Yeah.
this new
Yeah.
sense of life, and after I started coaching people online and helping them out and sharing my story of what I overcame, um, that was a whole nother step for me, right? Like you said, to
Yeah.
to have a purposeful life is is great, because I thought my purpose was, you're going to go to work and work as much as you can and make sure your family has nice things, and a brand new car and a big enough house to accommodate whatever we wanted to do, and go on these little mini vacations. But really, that wasn't it at all. They needed.
It's never it,
No.
Daniel. That's the programming that they instilled in us,
Yeah.
and it keeps us normal, if you will. As we talked about it, keeps us controlled. Because if we stay there, we will never get to know who we are. And if you don't know who you are, you're lost. I worked in healthcare, and one of the most painful things I've ever seen in my life, I got a chance to witness many, was people in their 80s and 90s, Daniel, that had no clue who they were. on their um, on their way to the next realm and had nothing. And I remember being in one of the residents' room, and we were having this conversation. When I came out of there, man, it broke me because I was like, wait a minute, um, I cannot allow this to happen to me. And I had also, like you, a near-death experience, and I was in ICU for several days, I think almost a week or so. And when I came out of there, I came out different. I began to look at what was important. What was important was me. What was important was why, I need to accomplish certain things. And I knew what some of those were, but I was still plugged in. I can't move. I got to take care of the kids, the stuff that we talk about. When you got there and you had that shift in perspective, Daniel, and you had that near death, and they introduced additional tools. That journaling is one of the most powerful tools out there, along with meditation and all the other things, because I feel that in the journal aspect of it, you're getting a chance to extricate all of that stuff that was inside of you, all the trauma, all of the pain, all of it. And as you vomit it out, you begin to heal and move forward. So as you begin to vomit it out and get it out of you, and you're sharing with your wife, and she's overwhelmed and all that, what was happening to you, Daniel? How were you being renewed, if you will, from having these conversations with her? Because this is new ground, you know. It's not familiar to you. It's not familiar to her. So how did you manage all of this?
Um, I just kept doing it. I just kept doing it. Right after the workout, I'm sorry, right after the accident, um, I'm here in my garage right now. Everyone in the
Yeah,
house is asleep right now, but I have a gym here in my garage, and I would wake up from nightmares, and I would come in here and work out. As soon as the bandages came off, I would come in here and work out. This was my therapy, was lifting weights.
yeah,
And soon after, um, when my uncle had talked to me, the one that had called that night I became sober, when I was
yeah,
off of work from my accident, he says, "Why are you still here? Why do you think you're still alive?" And I said, "Oh, I'm lucky." He goes, "No." He goes, "God kept you here for a purpose." And I was just kind of like, maybe, I don't know. But it wasn't
yeah,
until a year after that I realized that was my purpose, was to help other people. Um,
yeah,
I sought out a life coach, and he helped
hmm,
me. He gave me tools to share my story through Instagram, and that's kind of where I really fell into what I think was my purpose, right? Is
yeah,
to heal yourself, to take control over everything that's been bringing you down, to create discipline in yourself, and share that story, right? I had the
yeah,
courage now to share, to be open, and that's really what was really healing, because I wouldn't even share with my wife what
yeah,
was keeping me down inside, and now I'm sharing it with the world. Um, hey, this is, you have problems at home. I have problems at home. You know, you have
yeah,
problems overeating or drinking too much or falling into your vices. Yeah, I struggle from that too. And this is the tools that I use. Um, and journaling is one of those non-negotiable tasks that I tell my clients. You know,
yeah,
um, we're gonna wake up early. Like I wake up at 2:45, and first thing I do when I wake up is I open up my journal, and I journal about whatever what I didn't like about myself the day before, right? What did I do wrong the day before, and how am I going to correct that action today? Um, and then the meditative state,
hmm,
I get into meditation, and I tell everybody, you have to get into a meditative state through pushing your body to its limits, you know,
yeah,
to hard workouts. You'll find that clarity. You'll get into that meditative flow state, if you will, right?
yeah,
Um,
The zone, they say, because
The zone.
when I was in track and field, I remember when I broke the school record. I'll never forget that day. I was sick. I was sick like a dog, as they say. And I'm sitting at the track and I'm looking, and my coach said to me, "Aren't you going to run?" I'm like, "No, I don't feel well." He said, "No, this is the best time to run." And I was looking at him going, "Are you out of your mind?"
Yeah.
He said, "No, trust me. This is the best time to run." And Daniel, I remember getting to the tape to start the track, to kneel down and do our thing, and the gun goes off. And I remember running, but I remember it was laborious at first. And then when I kicked in, when I got to the zone, everything was quiet. The noise outside of me, around me, the stadium was packed with people. I didn't hear anything. I'm telling you honestly, all I could hear was my breathing. It was me being highly sensitive to my energy. And it was very quiet. And I remember just running, and in my mind, it's like slow motion, but I had no idea what was happening outside, because I wasn't there. I was in this zone, man. And I remember when I came out of it, the whole place is screaming and yelling, and I'm like, "What happened?" And that's when they're like, "Oh, you won the race," and I was like, "What?"
Wow.
Well, you broke the record. I did what? I didn't know anything like that, and you have moments. All of us have moments of that in our life when we are in that space and you're breathing. There's a sense of another, if you will. And when you get there, guys, it's a beautiful place to be. But Daniel is absolutely correct. When you push the body beyond its limit, meditation for athletes, athletes going to meditative states, weightlifters, and all these guys. Why? Because they're pushing the body beyond the its limit, and it can take more, but you have to push it to find out how far it can go. As you begin to move, Daniel, and begin to shape yourself, you begin to lose the weight in your uncle. I'm glad that you mentioned your uncle. I'm learning something in my life. I'm 62 this year, and I'm learning some things about us, all of us. The fact that anything happens in our life, Daniel, I believe we call it. You needed your uncle more so than you needed your father and your brother. You guys would have had a different conversation, but your uncle was able to move you to the space that you needed to be. And I believe your inner being was calling for that more so than anything else. And your uncle manifested, and he picked up the phone. So here he is, and he comes in, and he's telling you now. He's now going to shift your perspective and bring you to the awareness that you must become a servant. When you got there and you realize that, Daniel, because you now have to move beyond, just like the weightlifter is about to push the body, you got to push beyond all your fears, all your insecurities, all of it. Talk to me about that space, Daniel. How did you push through?
It started right after my uncle and I sat down and had that conversation. When I got back to work, they had finalized the investigation from a work accident. And the safety section reached out to me and they asked me, "Hey, would you want, we have the presentation. We're going to be going to all the districts and presenting your accident. Would you want to go to the yard that I was working at the time of my accident?" He goes, "Would you want to go there, and after we present your investigation, would you want to get up and speak? Do you want to say something to everybody there?" And I saw that I found this as an opportunity to really spread the awareness of our safety equipment, our PPE, because ultimately that's what saved my life.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and I said, you know what? I said, I'll get up. I said, if my supervisor will allow it and you guys will allow it, I'll go to every single meeting that you guys are going to have, and I'll get up and I'll speak at every single one of them. And a couple emails later, and they both sides said, yeah, I think that's great. That's great if
Yeah.
you're up to it. And so every safety meeting, um, I'm watching them present, essentially reliving, this pain that I had caused on myself, on my family.
Yeah.
Um, and my heart would be beating out of my chest, and I have all these emotions coming, and they're showing photos that I took, because I took so many photos of my face afterwards, photos of my face, photos of my healing, photos of the equipment that was blown up, and I close my eyes and I can smell everything burning again from that night. Um, and they go, but we have Daniel Spencer here to speak on that. I get up there and I start talking about it, and what the thoughts that I was having right before, and my process for healing afterwards.
Hmm.
And then all of that anxiety, all of the, it just kind of went away. Right. And
Yeah.
day after day, speaking on it and speaking on it, it grew this confidence in me. Like, um, you have, I'm gaining this confidence in myself to open up and
Yeah.
speak about my fears, right? Which most men in my line of work will not do.
Yeah.
My doubts, and then sharing my process on how I dealt with it, which was seeking a psychologist, going to see a therapist, which nowadays it's becoming more of an open topic, but growing up, that was never a thing
Yeah.
for men to do, right? We're not going to share our
Yep.
feelings. That's not what
Hmm.
we do.
Yeah.
And after every single meeting, I would have at least one or two people come up to me and say, "Hey, thank you. Thank you for your bravery, for your honesty, for being willing to open up, for being able to share that you've seen a therapist, to help you out." And
Yeah.
that kind of was like a whole nother level for me, right? That just,
Yeah.
like, being open and honest, and then having other people say, that really helped me, um, with my work habits, or that really helped me with, I see a psychologist for these reasons, totally unrelated to work, personal trauma, past
Yeah.
traumas. And it was just like, wow, you really are helping people out. You really are helping people out. And there's a so I'm getting all these tools, right? I have the knowledge
Yeah.
of diet, of workouts, um, and now being open to share emotions and feelings and past pains and traumas.
Yeah.
Um, there's a life coach who I've been watching on YouTube and Instagram, and I repost one of his posts, and he sends me a message, and he says, "Hey, let's get you on the team," right? He wanted me to train, and I sent him a message back, and I go, "You know what? I know how to work out. I know how to diet." I said, "But what I want to do is help change lives the way your videos have inspired me and changed me internally." So
Yeah.
I start a coaching program, right? I start a coaching program online,
Nice.
and I use
Hmm.
those tools. I use the power of auto suggestion in the morning. We're not going to hit the snooze button. We're going to get up and journal our feelings and journal our regrets, um, get into a workout, create discipline with our foods, which is going to transform our body, which is going to give us more confidence, and resonating with people that are struggling with those same problems, right? Being open. That really helped me be open on the internet, because at times, I wouldn't take my shirt off at the beach because I wasn't happy with the way I looked. I wasn't happy with the way I felt.
Yeah.
And now having the confidence of being able to open up, um, emotionally, show my body, show the work that is possible, because our bodies are amazing, right? They heal ourselves so much. I
Yeah.
mean, most people can't tell that I had skin graft surgeries,
Yeah.
or that I have,
Yep.
you know, um, the power of healing, not only externally, is amazing, but the bigger power of healing internally is is what really I think everybody wants, right? Healing those pains inside
I agree.
is really going to help you feel better and give you this level of confidence that is going to say, yeah, maybe I can change the way I look, or maybe I can change the way I treat other people. Because I was growing up with that self-hatred or whatever I brought upon myself. I would give to other people negative energy. I would lie. Time, right? Taking people's time. I would steal people's time. I would rob them of happiness. I would rob them of
Yeah.
personal objects. And I believe that it was a time where I was sitting in the hospital room in the ICU, and I believed in karma, but that's when it really hit me. Everything that you've done before, this is karma catching up to you. This is karma saying you're going to pay some of that back with this pain. And one thing my coach says is, life doesn't happen to us; it happens for us, right? Yeah. And I saw this as an opportunity to help other people, not only with the safety aspect of our work, but to really show like it's okay to open up, right? It's okay to look internally and heal yourself. And essentially that's just going to make you a better husband, a better wife, better brother, sister. When you heal yourself and you love yourself, essentially it's going to make it easier to love everybody else.
Well, the principle is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. You can't love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know what it is, it's not a word, I love you. It's not a couple of words. It's much, much deeper than that. It's all kinds of stuff that Daniel was talking about. He's talking about a commitment. I tell people, it's like a covenant. It's something that cannot be broken. When you look at someone and you have a revelation of what love is, from loving yourself, that when I look at someone and I say I love them, I know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not like I don't know. I know exactly when I say I love you. I know that I mean it to that degree that I love me. And I need to learn how to do that just like everyone else. And you guys that are listening to our conversation with Daniel, this is an incredible conversation as to how one man, his journey and the pain that he carried, all of the different darkness that came into his life. I was reading his stuff and he said he went through hell. And here he is, he's sitting before us with his wife, his children, and his purpose. When one finds their purpose, they become purposeful, as I say to people all the time. A lot of you guys are circular. And when you're circular in your life, it's because you haven't made a decision yet. Daniel said that was it when he saw that glass after he got his kids home. That was the beginning of his beginning. When he saw that glass, he's like, wait a minute. And there was some clarity that came in that caused him to take steps. He stopped being circular and he began to make changes to make himself one that is a designer. And you guys, come to our space to become designers. I want to talk to you about this one thing because I like talking about this, Daniel. You are now teaching, you're coaching, as they say. You have someone that shows up in your space. Daniel, he or she is all a mess. And we talked a little like this before, that honor and that pleasure that we get a chance to see when the light bulbs come on. If you can, introduce us, invite us into one of those conversations that as you are guiding that individual and they are the lights to see, you see it happening. And and I tell people, why does a coach people laugh at me, Daniel. I tell them, I said, get a coach who's been through some stuff.
You have to.
because
You have to.
you got to get one because they have been through the hard times and they are going to know the right question to ask you to get the result that they know that you need, but you don't know that you need because they've been there. So
Yeah.
invite us, Daniel, to one of those conversations that you have with someone as you begin to ask those questions when the bulb begins to get brighter and brighter, and how it made them and how it changed you as well.
Um, I think one of my biggest wins as a coach is somebody had messaged me because I talk about my alcoholism a lot on my Instagram. I talk about being so overweight, um, and it's a huge problem within my trade, within the power line trade. I mean, not even just the power line trade, just blue collar construction in general, right? We work hard,
Yeah.
we eat like crap, and we drink and take pain
Mm-hmm.
pills. And one guy sends me a message and he says, you know, I really want to become a better husband. I really want to become a better father. And I said, so what's keeping you down? And he says, you know, just finding the motivation. Well, okay, so what do you do after work? Like how many hours of work how many hours do you work a day? And what do you do after work to try and you know, unwind? And he said, you know,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I'll drink like 6 to 8 beers a night. And I go, well, that's going to be your biggest problem right there. Because that's all that's going to do is multiply our our internal pain. It's going to create more problems at home.
Yeah.
It's going to bring down your motivation even more. Um,
Yeah.
so I said, look, what you need as as an addict, as a recovering alcoholic or drug addict, um, once we remove that vice, we need something to fill that wound. If we don't fill that wound in with
Mm-hmm.
something positive, we're going to fall right back in and fill it with the negativity. So I said, this is a program for you. I go, this is exactly what will work for you. I said, because we eliminate all vices and we fill those gaps with positive action, positive thought,
Yeah.
positive books, um, positive work on our physical body by working out. We eat with intention. We track our macros and we eat in a calorie deficit, which is going to, you know, essentially lose weight and building muscle and give us more confidence. So so he signs up for my program. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and after a week, I have a weekly team Zoom meeting and he gets on and he goes, hey, you know, he didn't really lose a whole lot of weight at first, and which is fine, right? It usually happens
Yeah.
sometimes. And he goes, I go, so share some of your wins then, you know, what are some other external wins other than a weight loss win? And he says, I got rid of all my alcohol. He said, I emptied my fridge, I threw it out. Um, he said, my wife and her friends went out. Uh, they went to go party. I think it was a Friday or Saturday night, and uh, and he had that auto suggestion in himself. He's like, I cannot go with them.
Mm-hmm.
If I go with them, then I'm gonna regress and have drinks and probably, you know, end up just rolling back and not continuing this program. So for me,
Yeah.
that was one of the biggest wins so far.
Yeah.
Regardless of all my clients losing their weight and having body transformation, was this man saying, "Yeah, I quit drinking and I'm not going back. I can't go back into that vice." That was one of them.
That's a big win.
Yeah, it
That's a
is.
big win, man.
It is.
Yeah, because that will usher him into the other aspects of the weight that eventually is going to come, and all the other things are going to come. And he may change lives like you did with your brother and stuff like that, you know. So it's the beginning, man. Again, all you guys that are listening to us um, that are having some issues with drinking and drugs or whatever it is, whatever, it doesn't matter what vice you're in, the process by which one comes out is pretty much the same. You got to learn about who you are and so forth. And you that are listening to us, and whatever vice you find yourself in, I got someone right here that is going to be able to walk with you I'm going to provide all of Daniel's information so that you can get to him, because it's important that you get to him. Why? Because he wants to introduce you to you and show you how great you are and what you can accomplish. Don't feel as if you cannot. I have someone that can hold your hands, walk with you, encourage you, show you the potholes, if you will, so that you'll be able to stand up and walk with your family, walk with yourself, walk and be proud of who you are while you're here on this planet. Daniel, I want to thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment, man.
Thank you very much for having me, Ken. Absolutely. We have to look internally, and once we know what it is we want to change about ourselves, and we say it every morning, right? We look at ourselves and I'm not happy with this. I wasn't happy with that. That's what you need to work on right away. And if you guys need help, reach out.
Yeah, you guys get in touch with Daniel. He's going to give you the tools. The tools that he mentioned are very powerful tools. And they change his life. They change many others, and it'll change yours as well. Most of us don't know where to start. I have someone that can help you start, and so that you'll be able to understand and invite and bring these tools into your body and into your life, into your mind, into your thought life, and change your world. Again, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for having me.